Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/am I the asshole for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my thoughts and opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Remote Narwhal 5726. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my boss's kids eat my food? In February, I, 19 female, arrived in the US as an au pair. If you don't know how the program works, basically you're hired as a nanny, but you're not paid a lot. I get $196 per week, because the family gives you a place to stay and food in their house. And they also pay for your studies, up to $500. It was the only way I could afford to have the exchange experience, and I really wanted to take this chance, so I came. The two kids I take care of are great. We talk a lot, and I already learned so much from them. The problem I have? It's with their parents. Since I arrived, they told me I'm only allowed to eat the items from one cabinet. Nothing else, and they will only replenish once a month. And they have cameras and will see if I try anything. I don't know if this is true, but I wouldn't steal anyway. In my cabinet, they just put tortillas, a few canned vegetables, beans, and mac and cheese boxes. No snacks, no drinks, cheese or meat, chicken, none of those. I talked with my agency here and they told me that the family is allowed to do that, as long as they give me food. And I can try to match with another family and wait for the process or go back home. I don't want to give up, so I stayed. But the food thing was really getting to me, so I started to use the money to put things in my cabinet. The problem is that they're super healthy, and they don't let their kids eat Chips Ahoy, Pringles, beef jerky, stuff like that. I wasn't trying to eat in front of the kids on purpose, but I spend most of my day with them when they aren't in their classes, and I get hungry, so I eat in front of them. And they started to ask me to eat too. My money doesn't get me very far. My parents have no way of helping me, and these snacks can last for days when I pace myself. So I just told them they would need to ask their parents for snacks because I didn't have a lot to share. They did, and their mom blew up at me in front of them, telling me that I had a lot of audacity denying her kids food inside her home, that if I ate in front of them, I had to share, and that I couldn't bring this kind of junk into their home. I couldn't really say anything in fear of her just dumping me on the street, but I told her I didn't have enough money to buy an amount that I could share with the kids or buy healthier, and that I would really like to share mine if they shared theirs. I meant the food the family eats. I don't ask the kids for their snacks or food ever. She said I was lucky. She really needed a nanny, and that's it. I told my parents about it and they think she's wrong, but that I am too for how I dealt with it, and for taking it out on the kids when it's not their fault. My au pair friends also think I'm the asshole for denying food to little kids. Am I the asshole, and would I be the asshole if I kept buying junk even after she told me they aren't allowed in her home? So my first impression is not the asshole. The host parents sound like they are just severely screwing you over on the amount of quote-unquote food they're allowing you to have. Like that is just... That just sucks, that they're giving you a small cabinet of just basic foods that you'd find in a bachelor's pantry. If I was ever in a financial position where I could afford to have someone live in my home and take care of my children, I'd fucking treat them like family. Like, I would treat them how I would want them to treat my kids. That just seems like that'd be common sense. I mean, yeah, rules and limitations would definitely have to be in place, as with all family members, but this just feels like human trafficking. I know that is dramatic as hell, but that's just the vibe I get. But I do have some comments I want to take a peek at that I feel will give some more context, because this is personally my first time of hearing of an au pair, or au pair, that thing. Live-in nanny, for studies. Yes. Anyway, commenter worth season 3645. Not the asshole. You're in the US and a family is treating you like this, and your agency is doing nothing to help you? You are allowed nothing other than what is in your cabinet? What do you drink? Water? How do you feed the kids? Are you allowed to eat the same lunch? Do they share dinner? And now they want you to share the snacks you buy with your money, the little that they give you, with their children? This sounds like a Law and Order episode. You're essentially a slave, and I sincerely doubt this is legal. I would tell this agency they better do something fast to match you with a family, and they need to do better background checks for the parents they hire for, or you'll be blasting them all over social media. I would be telling those parents that you have to wonder how their coworkers would feel if they found out how you were treated. In fact, I think you should start a Nanny Horror Stories Insta page. Next comment is by user PleasantThing3239. I was reading an article the other day about how nannies are in such short supply. I would leave that family and find another. You're young, on a visa, and think you have to let these people treat you however they want. That's so far from how it should be. $196 a week? That breaks down to what, $2 an hour at the end of 6 days? You're not the asshole. You're just working for assholes, and your agency is run by assholes. Honestly, if the nanny thing is true, which I definitely don't doubt, then OP should definitely be able to find a family that actually appreciates the work they put in. I think that OP needs to try to find themselves a solution that'll actually work. They should probably write it out for as long as they can while actively seeking out either a new family to board with or just another solution, because this is not a healthy environment to be in. You're in school, you need more than just tortillas and canned vegetables. This is fucking ridiculous. Oh, right, hold on, I'm sorry, I forgot the beans and mac and cheese as well. Ugh. Hopefully OP can find their way out of this one, because oh my god. If you have any solutions, don't comment them here. Please go to the description, take a look at the posts. I link every post, every episode, unless of course there's a reason I can't link it. And go leave your ideas for how they can potentially escape the situation and get themselves in a better scenario. Odd age, 1378. Am I the asshole for blowing up at my sister for naming her daughter after a fungal infection? So my, 20 male, sister, 27 female, and her husband had been struggling a lot with baby names. She was determined to find the single perfect name. Even by the time of her baby shower, nearly 5 weeks before her due date, she didn't seem any closer to picking something out than she was at the start of her pregnancy. Anyway, I knew she was struggling, so in addition to the $900 wooden crib on her list that I got for her, I gave her a list of, obviously, joke baby names. We have a really close relationship, and it was in line with both of our senses of humor. She's a nurse, and I'm a biology student, so all of the names were medications, infections, unpleasant animals, etc. That all sounded like lovely girls' names out of context. Some of them were a little obscure, sure, but I included some obvious ones like Viagra and hernia for good measure. 2 weeks later, she told me she and her husband had finally settled on a name. Malassezia. The baby's name is Malassezia, one of the names on my joke list. Outside of the immediate issues, nearly impossible to pronounce on the first try, the ass smack dab in the middle of it, the first syllable being mal, literally meaning bad or evil. It's also the name of a very common fungal infection, one that my sister and I are both genetically predisposed to, one that we've both had multiple times throughout our lives. Her daughter will almost certainly catch it at some time. I pointed it out to her, and she said that yes, she knew what it meant, and she knew my list was intended to be a joke, but she just really liked the way it sounded. I don't think the husband knows what it means. I think he'd reject it if he did. She says that it's so obscure that no one will ever think twice about it. Except, when the little baby Malassezia turns 14, finds a weird spot on her neck, and goes on her phone to Google what it is. I told her that the name was completely unacceptable, and I was shocked that she chose it. I even suggested some similar names like Mallory, Azalea, or Anastasia. That would be more acceptable, but she wouldn't hear it. She said that since I'm not one of the parents, I have no business telling her what she can and cannot name her child, and that I'm stepping way out of line. I think it's pregnancy hormones, and she'll regret the decision very soon after her daughter is born. Can you imagine being a doctor and a patient shows up with the name of an illness? Like, this would be like someone naming their child ringworm, or scabies, or herpes, or something along those lines. Just not a good idea. I don't think OP's the asshole, and I do hope that he handled it with at least some tact, because this is just definitely a recipe for a disaster. Because at some point, the daughter's going to find out that she's named after a fungal infection, and it's going to completely fucking break her. I mean, just think about it. Either you go to the doctor and your doctor's like, did you know you're named after a fungal infection? Or you find out because you get the fungal infection, and then you're dealt with the crushing realization that either A, they just named a fungal infection after me, or B, I was named after a fungal infection. That is not going to be a conversation to have at all with your daughter. So, OP is definitely not the asshole here for trying to draw a line to not name their daughter after a fungal infection. You should probably tell the husband what they're about to do. Tweakin' C4T. Am I the asshole for booking my own Airbnb so I don't have to sleep on a couch for 6 nights? My immediate and extended family have booked a vacation for later in the summer. My aunt, who found this place, knew the owner, and they got a great deal. My aunt initially said there are 6 bedrooms. 1 room for her and her husband, my uncle, 1 room for my parents, 1 room for my cousin and her husband, 1 room for my other cousin and his wife, and 1 room for their kids. Their kids are both under 10. The last bedroom, you may wonder, is where my aunt made an innocent mistake in miscounting. There are only 5 bedrooms. They told me that my boyfriend and I will have to sleep on a pull-out couch. I told my parents I would rather not sleep on a couch even if it does pull out. I also don't want to make my boyfriend sleep on the couch with me either for his own privacy. It's in the living room, which is in the middle of everything. I would rather not be woken to people starting their day, and I would rather not have to change in the bathroom each and every time or even leave all my stuff in the living room as well. I don't want to change in my parents' room either because I know I would probably rush so that they can have their own privacy. I don't want to put my luggage in anyone else's room and fill their room with my clutter. Same goes for my boyfriend. I don't want to make him do all that either. My family has never had this big of a vacation altogether in such a long time. I would love to be involved and whatnot, but I said I would rather not go if I can't have a room to myself, or I'll book my own place nearby, and I will pay for my part of the main house everyone is in, regardless. My mom refused both options as I will ruin the trip if I don't stay under the same roof. If I get my own place to stay, it would solely be to sleep. I plan to be with my family at all other times and events. I don't care about the price of only getting an Airbnb just to sleep. I want my privacy. Haven't mentioned it to my cousins or anyone else yet that I'm considering getting my own place as close as possible though. Am I the asshole? This was actually a problem that my family had to go through recently with growing pains. The larger the family gets when you want to go on vacation, you gotta start making different choices because, yeah, having kids like sleep on a pull-out couch or sleep in sleeping bags on the floor, or hell, even sleeping in tents in the yard or camping out in the garage, that's fine when they're kids, but as they become adults, you gotta start figuring out new ways to handle that. My family ended up doing was booking hotels nearby from each other because the point of that is to be able to stay in privacy, have your own bathroom, have your own space, and be able to get a good night's sleep without being interrupted. OP is even still opting to pay for the space that they're refusing to stay in, so there's not really an issue beyond the fact of, for some reason, they're just being weirdly controlling. I mean, as long as OP is like showing up at a specific time, they're not staying too late at the place that they're staying for the Airbnb, and they're actually still participating with the family, then it's not really throwing a wrench into anyone's plans. There's no real issue with it besides, apparently, it's a grievous sin for them to want to have some privacy at night. Now, in my opinion, I think that if OP does get the Airbnb, they should be able to stay in their own space without having to pay for the additional space that they're no longer occupying in the, quote-unquote, 6-bed, 5-bedroom home. I guarantee that's what the listing was and the aunt got it confused. Also, if I were OP, I'd be pretty upset that the 2 kids are getting priority over a bedroom over, like, myself and my partner. I'd be pretty upset with that because they should be the ones sleeping on the pull-out couch or, sleeping in sleeping bags or getting the garage or being in tents outside. I don't know, something along those lines. I feel like that's a pretty reasonable expectation that the adults who are staying there would get first priority to the bedrooms over the children. But hey, that was not the case. OP was dissatisfied with that, offered a solution, and is being denied the solution. I mean, hell, if I were OP, I wouldn't even blame them for offering the ultimatum of, hey, either we get our own Airbnb or we're not going on vacation with you guys. It's one or the other. Because expecting 2 adults to sleep on a pull-out bed with, like, no privacy whatsoever, that sucks. Klutzy Error, 9834. Am I the asshole for telling my husband not to talk to my daughter? Tonight, my husband, 29 male, went to a concert and left around 4:15 p.m. I, 31 female, put our toddler to bed around 7:30 and sometime after went to bed myself. She woke up around 11:45, so I went into her room to put her back to bed. My husband must have gotten home around this time and seeing that she was awake, came in to see her, having just been woken up, My quick response was to get her back to sleep quickly. I thought if she saw him, she might get excited and not want to go back to sleep. She's been in such a mom kick lately that I knew it would be me dealing with the fallout. So, before she saw him, I told him no, and apparently pushed him away. I don't remember pushing him. Like I said, I had just woken up. But I would have never pushed him hard. When I left her room, he was getting ready for bed, and I told him that I was sorry for not letting him see her, but was afraid she would get excited if she saw him and not go back to sleep. He didn't say much. A few minutes later, I could tell something was off and asked if he was mad at me. He said something along the lines of, "Yes, I got home and you pushed me." I said I was sorry again and that I didn't mean to push him and explained myself again. He was still upset. I got annoyed because I felt like it was a silly thing to be upset over and said something like, "Wow, you're really butthurt over that." Hindsight, I feel like that was a mean thing to say. He said something along the lines of me victim blaming, and we both just rolled over in bed and he went to sleep, and now I'm up, unable to sleep. Wondering, am I the asshole? Edit to add, my daughter has never been a great sleeper. She's often up multiple times a night, so he understands I'm always trying to get her back to bed as quickly as I can to prevent her from waking up fully, or we would be up all night. She also doesn't nap anymore. I never keep my husband from my daughter. I encourage one-on-one time with them and push him to take her on more daddy-daughter dates. I give them one-on-one time quite often after he's off work. I am always trying to include him in things we do as well. Normally, bedtime has been his time with her since I'm with her all day, but lately she's been getting so worked up at bedtime, he's been asking me to do it, and he's trying to make up the time with her in other ways. I have done some self-reflection and I have agreed with a lot of your points. I messed up. I intend to apologize again in the morning and make it right. So initially, I assumed this was just going to be about the nuances of whether or not the father should have been able to see her daughter and, her getting excited, potentially not going back to bed, and the issues surrounding that of what's the reasonable and responsible thing to do in that situation. And was curious as to what the comments would be saying because this post was labeled the asshole. And then we hit paragraph 2 and realized no, this is not about that. This is about the fact that OP pushed her husband. When her husband brought up the fact that he was uncomfortable and hurt by her actions, she hit him with the, you're butthurt over that, aren't you? Which fucking sucks. That is an asshole thing to do. So yeah, in regards to specifically the instance of you telling your husband, are you butthurt over me pushing you? You're the asshole. You need to talk with him and fucking apologize. Also, in the edit, there's language used that's a personal pet peeve of mine. It's when OP says, my daughter. My husband from my daughter. I suppose this is also within the title as well. My husband not to talk to my daughter. It's just very simple wordings and linguistics, but it feels like to me that it's kind of a, Freudian slip. I don't know. I'd be curious to have a conversation about the whole bedtime fiasco, but I think a good majority of us can agree that OP is the asshole in this situation without a doubt for how they handled their husband with pushing him and their reaction. Now, for the other aspect of this, excluding the push, is OP's reaction to preventing the father from seeing the child to prevent them from being stirred up at night a valid response? Let me know in the comments. Capable Schedule 864. Am I the asshole for grounding my stepdaughter for selling my formal dress? I, 37 female, have a stepdaughter, Amy, 16 female. Amy was looking for formal dresses, and I mentioned that I have my old formal dresses. She picked my old prom dress to wear, and she's kept it in her wardrobe since wearing it at prom. I don't fit in my old dresses anymore, and I kept them in some other clothes to hand down to my kids. However, I have 2 sons who aren't interested. Since my nieces, 15 female and 13 female, are interested in my clothes, I plan to give them the rest once they're old enough to fit them. Amy left her earbuds in her sweatpants pocket and turned on the washing machine. When she asked for new ones, me and her dad told her to save up to buy new ones. She works part-time, as she wanted an expensive brand pair and not the wired headphones I had offered. Amy went to stay with her mom, and when she got back, she had the new earbuds she wanted. So I asked if her mom had bought them for her, and she said that she had resold my dress on a secondhand site and bought herself the earphones. The dress is 100% silk, one of a kind, and the brand doesn't exist anymore. I was really upset to hear she had sold my dress without even asking. I confiscated her earbuds and told her I would give them back when she repaid me the cost of what she sold the dress for. My husband thinks I'm being too harsh, as I wasn't explicit on whether I was lending or giving her the dress. Amy has gone to live with her mom since and thinks I'm being unfair. I'm not sure if I've taken it too far, and if I should stand my ground. Personally, in my opinion, not the asshole, and while normally I am deeply opposed to a step-parent enacting a punishment onto a stepchild with no communication between the step-parent and the biological parent, this is a bit different because in any other circumstance, this could technically be considered a crime. The daughter pawned off her stepmother's possessions, one of those possessions being an antique that she had other uses for, and what I can only assume to be out of spite or protest, she specifically chose to sell that dress to replace the earbuds that her stepmom had previously refused to assist her in buying. I decided to poke at the comments just to see what the general consensus was, and there are two comments that I think are worth taking a look at. The first one's from Yogurt Apart 1411. Not the asshole, and you are underreacting. She's lucky you haven't pressed charges already, as the dress was probably worth quite a lot on materials alone. I'd be letting your husband know charges will be filed if the money/dress is not returned within 1 week. She stole from you. Moving to her mom's, where she probably was given new earbuds anyway, isn't a punishment, and she learns nothing, besides that you and Dad are pushovers. She knew she wasn't supposed to sell the dress. That's why she kept it a secret until she was confronted. You will never be able to trust her again, and you may never get your dress back. But her immediately returning the money, sincerely apologizing, and getting in touch with whoever she sold it to, trying to get it back, would have gone a long way with making this not as awful as it was. Your husband needs to step up as a parent and discipline his thief child now before this goes too far. The next person she steals from will not be so lenient. The next comment's by Lulilu. You might be the asshole here. It really depends on how explicit you were about whether you were giving or lending the dress. If she wore it to prom and then kept it and you did not ask for it back to set aside for your nieces, she may have reasonably thought you were giving it to her. It would have been thoughtful of her to ask you before selling it anyway, because even if she thought you gave it to her, she would have been selling a gift. But that kind of consideration might not be a reasonable expectation for a 16-year-old. Put yourself in her shoes. Your mom gives you a second-hand dress that doesn't even fit her anymore. You wear it to prom. It hangs in your closet for a while, then you sell it and buy something you really want. It's pretty self-centered and not very considerate or thoughtful, but that is the definition of a teenager. In your place, I would be hurt and probably angry. I'm also sentimental about clothes, but for that very reason, I've been super explicit with my kid about what I am giving her and what she can only borrow. And even so, I straight up gave her a favorite dress that she got tired of and gave to a friend. It broke my heart, but I was the one who chose to give it to her. I think because you were not explicit with her, you need to take some of the responsibility for what happened. I would be honest about how you feel and let her know she hurt you, because this is an important lesson for her. I would ask for her side of the story. If it was an honest misunderstanding, then that's a lesson for you, and I would give her back her earbuds. I think perhaps the negativity is starting to rub off on me a little bit, and I just assumed the worst right out the gate, because I actually think Lulilu brings up a decent point. If this was an earnest mistake and communication can show that, yeah, she just thought it was genuinely a gift and saw that she needed something, she wouldn't be needing a prom dress, and just assumed that it was hers to sell, then that's one thing entirely. Now, OP clearly did not want the dress to be sold, and, the fact that they're a teenager doesn't excuse their mistake, but they may not be as much of a malicious actor as I first assumed. But my potentially misplaced assumptions aside, what about you in the audience? What are the vibes you get from this whole scenario, and what's your initial reaction and potentially your second reaction? Potential Knight 2188. Am I the asshole for asking my daughter not to wear her clothes backwards? Reddit has deemed this person the asshole. My daughter is 10 years old. She has never been diagnosed with ADHD, but her father, me, and her stepfather, my husband, all believe she has it. For the past year, she has had a tendency to put clothes on backwards, and it drives me nuts. I have sensory issues myself, so seeing her almost choked the fuck out by her clothes makes me feel like I'm suffocating. I've made comments to her before like, your shirt's on backwards, or your nightgown's on backwards. If it's the morning before school, she'll go back to her bedroom and fix it. If it's nighttime, she usually replies with, it doesn't bother me. We had somewhere formal we had to be tonight, and her uniform was on inside out. Later in the evening, she came out to the living room after taking a shower, and her pajamas were on backwards. I told her, "From now on, you need to wear your clothes correctly, and not backwards." She then asked me why I care, and I said because you should know how to put on your clothes correctly. My husband says, "I don't really understand why you care so much either way, but okay, if you want it enforced, I'll enforce it." And I looked at them both and said, "Our job as your parents is to teach you how to be, live, and function in the world. Putting your clothes on correctly is a skill we should have been able to teach you by now. If you're going out into the world with clothes on backwards, it's a reflection of our parenting, that we don't care to tell you or teach you how to do it correctly." My husband then backs me up and tells her she needs to listen to what I say. But after she goes to bed, my husband brings it up again and tells me he doesn't understand why it matters to me so much. He brings up the fact that I got pierced as a teenager, and how that could be seen as a reflection of my mother's parenting, but how I didn't care about that as a teenager. I responded that I'm not directing her style, that I'm simply asking her to wear her clothes in the correct way. He brought up her wanting to wear something later in life that I don't approve of. I said, hypothetically, if she wears something revealing, then we will have a conversation about safety. But again, I'm not trying to tell her what her style is or isn't. I'm asking for clothes to be forward-facing. And then I say, wearing your clothes backwards has never been and never will be in style. He says he views it like a kid cutting off their jeans or cut off shorts. I express if she ever made it seem like it was intentional, then maybe the conversation would have been different. The only time she's ever said anything is when she wears my t-shirts to bed because she says they fit better that way. And my husband tells me he thinks she doesn't like her clothes hanging down lower on her chest. And I said if she ever directly told me that, then it would be a totally different conversation of getting her clothes that fit differently. He was like, "I'm gonna ask her tomorrow." Am I the asshole? Okay, so I was deeply confused as to why Reddit rated this person the asshole. I didn't understand why, so I went to the comments, and I found this one here by Esmeralda of Chaos. I'm gonna go with a softer the asshole because I understand why you feel twitchy about her wearing her clothes that way, but ultimately, it's your problem to deal with. If she's not comfortable, let her be. Ultimately, the correct way is the way that covers her body appropriately for the weather. If people want to say things, then your response is, she made her choices. She's covering the important bits. This just isn't worth the argument, and the more you push an ADHD, especially one going into puberty, the more they're likely to defy you to assert some level of control over their environment. I have deep experience here. She knows how to put her clothes on correctly. We all know this. You've taught her what she needs. She's choosing differently. Save your fights for the stuff that really matters. Which OP responds, I wish I could upvote this a million times. Thank you for your response. And with that comment there, I agree with a softer the asshole. Just simply for the fact that her daughter is undiagnosed and that could lead to some problems and some authority issues later on. OP should definitely get her daughter to a professional to be properly diagnosed or not diagnosed if she doesn't have ADHD or autism or anything like that on the spectrum. Certainly try to get them diagnosed in an early age because one of the worst parts about being an adult who gets the diagnosis is suddenly everything makes a lot of sense, but then you're also hit with the realization of, fuck, is this why I've been struggling so much? And it's not fun. Hey everyone, welcome to the outro. Right now, GamerSubs is actually doing a free shipping promotion deal, so instead of the usual 10% off, you get free shipping, when using code AITA at checkout, of course. This is perfect for those of you who don't live in the States and want to do an order with GamerSubs, but don't want to pay the exorbitant fee of the shipping costs. This promotion is lasting from May 16th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to May 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so be sure to take advantage of this while you still can. Seriously, take advantage of it.